welcome to a new vlog. We're still going to be reading one of the Divergent books, and then after we finish that, we're going to be mood reading, binge reading for the rest of the vlog. But tomorrow I am having to go to Myrtle Beach to close out a UPS box. I am still, like, the estate is actually closed, but there's still some things that I have to do, because obviously I don't want to be spending money on things that I don't need. We talk about this with Kindle and Audible and all sorts of subscriptions, so that is a PO box that I do not need. So I'm going to shut that down so they don't renew it for the next 3 months. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to read tomorrow. But let's look at the weekly TBR. I'm actually going to finish New Poets of Native Nations today. I'm most likely going to be giving this a 3-star. It's good. And if you want to know more about what it is like to be a Native American today, this is a very eye-opening book. And it even shows historical and statistics that are gonna, again, open your eyes and be like, whoa, I never knew that. I think it is an impactful read, but there were just some sections where I had a really hard time understanding the language that was used, but for the most part, I do think this was a good collection. Then we have the main focus of the vlog. As of right now, I'm a quarter of the way into this, and that is for a Divergent collection by Veronica Roth. 2 years before Beatrice Pryor made her choice, the 16-year-old son of Abdication's faction leader did the same. Tobias's transfer to Dauntless is a chance to begin again. Here, he will not be called the name his parents gave him. Here, he will not let fear turn him into a cowering child. Newly Christian 4, he discovers during initiation that he will succeed in Dauntless. Initiation is only the beginning, though. 4 must claim his place in the Dauntless hierarchy. His decisions will affect future initiates as well as uncover secrets that could threaten his own future and the future of the entire faction system. 2 years later, 4 is poised to take action, but the course is still unclear. The first new initiate who jumps into the net might change all that. With her, the way to righting their world might become clear. With her, it might become possible to be Tobias once again. So that's our main focus. I am reading that on my Kindle because it is free with Kindle Unlimited. Next, we have my mood reads we finish for. This will be our main focus, and that is Gore Vidal's Lincoln. This is really a character study of Abraham Lincoln. Gore Vidal's narrative of empire spans the history of the United States from the Revolution to post-World War II years, with a broad canvas and large cast of fictional and historical characters. The novels in this series present a panorama of the American political and imperial experience as interpreted by one of its most worldly, knowing, and ironic observers. I am about a third of the way into that one. And lastly, we have my ebook pick that I'm not really enjoying. It's not doing a whole lot for me. That is Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. This is a Star Wars book. Basically, you need to have a lot of knowledge on this era of Star Wars. Even though this is the start of a series, I feel like I was thrown right in and don't have enough background knowledge to read this. In a shocking catastrophe in hyperspace tears a ship to pieces. The flurry of shrapnel emerging from the disaster threatens an entire system. No sooner does the call for help go out than the Jedi race to the scene. The scope of the emergence, however, is enough to push even Jedi to their limit. As the sky breaks open and destruction rains down upon the peaceful alliance they help to build, the Jedi must trust in the Force to see them through a day in which a single mistake could cost billions of lives. All that has already happened. I am a little over 50% of the way into this. I think I'm at like 57%. But those are the books that I'm reading this week. I was just out walking Delilah and we got the mail while we were doing that. It's hot, but and Daphne actually she texted me when I was on my walk and I was saying it was out for delivery, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally just got off the mailbox and I'm about to film this clip. It is coming from Rare Waves USA in Hebron, Kentucky. I never know how to say that. Let's see, do I pour it here? I did get my scissors just in case if I need them, which I think I will. Yeah, that pull tab did not go well. Feels like a paperback. It is a book. It's yellow. Oh my gosh. They package this tightly. You gotta be careful when you package books tightly, because I don't want you to see what it is. I want y'all to see first. Now my hair is sticking to me. Okay. Is that gonna do it? What is it? What is it? The Sunflower House by Adriana Alighieri. Family secrets come to light as a young woman fights to survive in a Nazi-run baby factory, a real-life Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, this, I forgot who I heard it from. She's on TikTok. I'm not remembering her name, but she read this book, and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine being in that situation that these characters are, that this young woman is in. And look how floppy this is. But oh my gosh, yeah, this one is so intriguing to me because that is just so crazy that happened in history. And I know it's happened in like other instances in history as well, but I've just never really read about that. And oh my gosh, yes, thank you, Daphne, so much, because I heard about this one recently and I cannot wait to see. That sounds like bad. I cannot wait to see what this is about and what it was like for the women who had to go through this. Oh my gosh, this just seems like such a new take on a World War II book, so thank you so much. Thank you. I got to page 183 and 4, which was about 106 pages read. We are going to go over my notes, and this isn't bringing a lot to the table because it is basically the first book of Divergent at Four's experience, going through initiation, all of that same process, where I had this problem with Allegiant, and I saw it in other people's reviews as well. I really struggled with that book being dual perspective because the voices of Trish and of Four were so similar. And that is the case here, that it's so similar to what we see in the main book series that we see in the first book, that it's not adding anything new to the story. These are stories, yes, that we heard Ford talk about in the Divergent series, and we're just seeing those stories come to life, but it doesn't really add anything to his character because I had enough of an imagination when I read the main 3 books that I could form it in my mind, and that's exactly how it is on a page, so it's not enhancing the reading experience in any way. But with those two characters' voices being so similar, and a lot of times the Divergent books are listed as romance. They're mainly listed as dystopian science fiction, romance, young adult, if you go to Storygraph or Goodreads. I do not think the relationship between Four and Trish would last because they are so similar. I can see them being twin flames, but not soulmates. I think they're just way too similar that all that fires that go together, and it's not going to be good. It's just going to burn up. That's my opinion anyway. So this book is fine, but it's not adding a whole lot to this universe, and I don't think it's really necessary. Is it a money grab? Maybe, but I do think if you are like a super fan of the character of Four or of Divergent, this would work very well for you. If I read this 10 years ago, I probably would have enjoyed it a whole lot more than reading it now, so many years after first reading the book series. This is my first time reading this, and actually in the foreword or the introduction to the book, Veronica Roth originally started writing about Four, but she realized that she couldn't tell the story she wanted to write with him, so a few years later she came up with the character of Trish, and that's how the Divergent series formed. So she had these stories already. Four was the original character in the Divergent universe. If you didn't, it's Tuesday. I did end up reading 100 pages. I don't know how I did that. I didn't realize there's literally only like 2 pages left of the book, but I don't have time to do that now. And I don't have any new thoughts because I am so sleepy. I fell asleep like twice reading this today. I got all my reading time in, but since I had to wake up early to go to Myrtle Beach this morning, I am just tired and I can't have any more caffeine today. I had all the caffeine I can have because it's like 7:30 right now. But she is ready to go have some water and treats, but to go on our walk. But no new thoughts. I will be finishing this tomorrow and we'll do my review. I just finished up she's very excited. I just finished up with 4. I'm giving it a 2.42, so I am going to round that down to a 2.25, since this book didn't do a whole lot for me. It didn't bring anything new to the table, but we're going to talk about my thoughts. I learned in Allegiant, with that book being dual perspective, that 4 and Trish have very similar voices, and that does make sense knowing the author's history with this series, knowing that the series was originally supposed to be a 4's perspective, but Trish as a character came later on into the author's mind. But all that being said, 4's initiation is just like Trish's, and this was all just very similar to the first book in the series. Did have slight hints with 4's insights into his inner thoughts, and I can appreciate that, but the atmosphere still feels like Divergent, even if we're seeing this land, this world, without all the active war. It's more of a cold war that is currently going on in this one. And 4 is a very serious character. He has a lot of trauma, but we do have a bit of a nostalgic and youthful nature to this book, especially when they play games like Dare. This is fun, like Dauntless games, fun if we want to call them fun as normal people. But there is still that hint of youthfulness, and I did like that to the tone. Writing, it made me realize that Veronica Roth, she loves to be repetitive with certain mannerisms. In this book and in Allegiant, I picked up characters like to pinch the hem of their shirts. I never do that. I don't notice people doing that, but I guess that they do, but it's just used over and over. And I get some people have habits. Like, I like to crack my knuckles. There's different habits that people have, but this is all different characters doing this, and that just gets repetitive. But overall, I didn't have any like big problems with the writing. That's just something that I noticed. The writing was good. It got the job done. It was easy and quick to read, so I have no issue with that. But the plot did not add anything to the series. I don't believe this is a necessary installment. I'm not saying that shouldn't have been written, but I don't think you have to read this book. I think you're fine reading the main 3 books in the series. You don't have to pick this one. I had enough info reading those original books, like the first Divergent book, to imagine these scenes in my head. This is just like very on the nose, being like, okay, this is exactly what happened in that instance the characters talk about of something that happened in the past. I didn't need that. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. It reads like fan service, but I do struggle to say that, since this was 4 was originally who the series was going to be about. I guess the author was just like, the fans might like this. I already have this written. Let's publish it. So I don't know if you want to call that fan service or not, but it's not like this installment is adding anything massive to the book series. With the intrigue, there were no moments of massive intrigue for me, and I ultimately knew where the story was going to go, but I still think you can release a prequel even knowing where the story goes and still have fun with it. But thankfully this did read so fast. I was never bogged down. Like, I was easily reading 100 pages a day, so I didn't really have an issue. With logic, the story does make sense with 4 as we know him as a character, but there were a few added in scenes that had to do with his parents and the coming war, where it left me feeling a little uneasy that it kind of messes with the balance that we see in the main series, because now we know 4 has all this previous knowledge, but that never comes up. At least I don't remember it coming up in the main series, and y'all know I've been reading the series all month long. I don't remember that ever coming up. Just being like, that's kind of weird. I don't like that. Overall, this would have worked better for me if I had read it when it was originally published. As of now, I would recommend it to the mega fans, but not the casual fans, as it's not going to really add anything to the series. It's not going to, it's not bringing anything new to the table. It's not necessary. Like, you will still get the same outcome of the main series without reading this. It's one that's like, it didn't do a whole lot for me, but some people might like it. It wasn't bad. It just didn't do anything for me. Got to 57% into Lincoln, getting me to, over the halfway point. I was trying to say I read 95 pages, and like the big thing today was that one of the Lincoln's sons died of sickness, and that just really had a big impact on everybody. Obviously, the loss of a child does. That is what is currently happening, and what I just read, Lincoln is visiting Frederick, Maryland, and there are Confederate soldiers who had been wounded, and once they get all the Union soldiers out who have been wounded, they will send the Confederates to Washington to be prisoners of war, and Lincoln he goes and visits those injured soldiers, even though they fought against his side. And it was just a very like moving scene to read. Starting in chapter 2.1 is how I'll word it, is there were reporters getting arrested and newspapers being shut down for anybody who was speaking against the Union and speaking against the presidency. But Lincoln wasn't really the one that was doing it. It was Sword. Sword is really a comparison. Modern comparison would be like Bush and Cheney, where everybody says like Dick Cheney was running everything. Everybody is saying that Sword is running everything, that he's the real president. He is actually the Secretary of State. But then we have Mary Todd Lincoln. She has been so relatable. Now she's kind of going off her wheels in grief, but she loves to spend money. She's a bit of a shopaholic, and she also gets migraines, and now she's turning to the occult, trying to hear from her son, but we all grieve in different ways. And then this quote is on page 246, and it is very true. But then for the true Southerner, winter is never not a disagreeable surprise. Yeah, that is true. But a lot of this, I feel like I'm just waiting for something to happen and nothing's happening. We're over the halfway point now. This is very political heavy, so if you're thinking this is going to be all out war, it's the strategy behind war. You're not going to be on the battlefield. There's a lot of political intrigue, which I am here for, and I am enjoying it, because we're seeing a lot of Lincoln's counsel, and I've never read anything like that. I've just seen how Washington is working over, 150 years ago, 160 years ago. That is very fascinating, but it just feels like we're waiting for something to happen. But the writing style itself is very clever, and it can be comedic, witty, and I do like the writing style, but I will say it is very descriptive, and I'm like, do we need to know all of this? But with this presidency, there is so much talking and gossiping, and it feels like the Lincoln family weren't really prepared to go into office and to become famous, to become celebrity, that they weren't ready for something like that, and they're very much just in this like small town, like normal person mindset, not realizing, oh, you shouldn't tell everybody everything, that you need to be careful of who you keep around you. They're definitely having a learning process in that regard. And I had never heard the term of calling somebody, they were saying Lincoln's not a Sphinx, and I had never heard this idiom or whatever before, but it makes so much sense, because the Sphinx is something that has held this secret for thousands of years, who knows how long. We don't know what the purpose of the Sphinx was. We don't know what the Sphinx is, why it's there. We don't know any of that. And that is because it's been a secret. Now, if somebody is not a Sphinx, they're somebody who cannot keep a secret, that being Abraham Lincoln. So I had never heard that terminology before, and I thought that was really fascinating. I liked that. As somebody who loves the ancient world, I did appreciate that. But that is all for Lincoln today. I did binge read. I meant to start binge reading at whenever I got into this at 3 o'clock and onward, but no, once I did the 6 o'clock reading hour, I binge read the rest of the afternoon. Tomorrow we will definitely do a little bit more binge reading, as much as we can. It is time to wrap up the vlog, to talk about Lincoln. I am nearing the 75% mark. I'm about 20 pages from that, and right now John Wilkes Booth has been introduced to the story. We're going to have to see how his character portrayal is played out. One of my favorite books is Booth by Karen Joy Fowler. I was like, what's her name? That is a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. See, and he's not a character in that book. Like, he's not a POV in that book. But let's talk about let's wrap up my reading for the week. I finished 2 books. First was New Poets of Native Nations, which I gave a 3-star. It was good. I just didn't vibe with some of the poets, but it really gave me a new perspective of what it is like to be an Indigenous person in the 21st century. I also finished 4 by Veronica Roth, the short story collection set in the Divergent universe. This one didn't do a whole lot for me. I don't really think it was a necessary installment, as it didn't add anything to the universe. And I have read over 100 pages every single day this week, and definitely going to do that today as well, because I've read a lot in here today, and it's a lot. Like, it's very descriptive and dense writing. But what are we going to be doing in next week's vlog? So next week's vlog will be the reset, getting ready for fall, getting ready for September, getting ready for a new month of reading. We're going to make a Kindle background. We are going to sort through the books that I hauled this month, get them on my shelves, and we are also going to be going through the books that I read this month, seeing which ones I'm keeping, seeing which ones I'm going to be unhauling. And lastly, what book are we going to be reading? So we are going to be reading a mood read. I should finish Lincoln on Saturday. That's what it's looking like. So my next one is right here, The Mammoth Hunters, which is the third book in the Earth's Children series by Jean M. Auel. And that is in my project of reading the historical fiction books that I own in chronological and historical order. So what we're going to be focusing on, that will be an audiobook like I have done with the other books in the series. But that is all for this video. If you made it through this whole video, leave a beach emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.